All of us at one time or another have asked, "Who am I?" But few have experientially explored the query with the vigor that Ramana Maharshi did at the tender age of 17. Instead of accepting temporary answers to the question, Ramana directed his inquiry with such zeal that he did not yield until the ultimate truth was realized. The remarkable feature of Ramana's enlightenment in 1896 in a small room in Madurai, South India, was its utter simplicity. As Paul Brunton retells it, Ramana was sitting alone one day in his room when a sudden and inexplicable fear of death took hold of him. He became acutely aware he was going to die, although outwardly he was in good health. He stretched his body prone upon the floor, fixed his limbs in the rigidity of a corpse, closed his eyes and mouth. "Well then," said I to myself, "this body is dead. It will be carried off to the burning ground and then reduced to ashes." But with death of the body, am I dead? Is the body I? This body is now silent and stiff, but I continue to feel the full force of myself apart from its condition. After this, Ramana fell into a profound conscious trance where he became merged into the very source of selfhood, the very essence of being. He understood quite clearly that the body was a thing apart, and that the I remained untouched by death. The true self was very real, but it was so deep down in man's nature that hitherto he had ignored it. From this transcendental encounter, Ramana emerged a new person. No longer interested in the outward activities of his family and peers, he embarked on a journey to Arunachala, the Holy Red Mountain in South India, which is a highly revered sacred spot among Hindus. Subsisting on a meager diet, possessing no material wealth, Ramana spent his entire life at Arunachala meditating or teaching others the way of knowledge. What had he realized that was so profound that it dramatically changed his life and the lives of others? The answer is deceptively simple. The world arises in a field of consciousness. There is no beginning and ending to consciousness. That very consciousness is our true self. Ramana's understanding was not born of a long intellectual quest, but was based entirely on an experiential realization which resulted from a direct inquiry into the process of death. Descartes' saying, "I think, therefore I am," has glimpsed this fact. It is not thinking that creates I am, but rather thinking confirms a priori the underlying I am or awareness which allows for mental processes in the first place. The world in this purview is not material. It is an aspect of consciousness. Our small eyes do not create such awareness. They are merely products of it. Hence, Ramana's realization should not be equated with solipsism, which is the philosophical theory that the self knows nothing but its own modifications and that the self is the only existent thing. As he clearly indicates, the ego, or small I, does not create the world, nor is the world unreal. To the contrary, Ramana stresses finding the source from which the world and the ego appear permanent and certain. That source, Ramana argues, is pure awareness, the true self of humankind. The beauty of Ramana's insight is that it was exemplified in his everyday actions. Perhaps the most heartwarming stories surrounding Ramana's life concern his kindness toward animals such as monkeys, dogs, cows, and even birds. Ramana always treated various forms of life with the utmost respect. Ramana did not formally accept any disciples, nor did he see himself as a guru or a master. Nevertheless, both in India and abroad, he attracted a large following of people impressed by his teachings and touched by his radiance. Among his many admirers were Carl Jung, the famous psychologist, Paul Brunton, whose book A Search in Secret India made Ramana famous, Arthur Osborne, his eventual biographer, and Somerset Maugham, the novelist who wrote about him in his book The Razor's Edge. After a long illness, Ramana died of cancer at 8:47 p.m. on April 14, 1950. True to his insight, Ramana did not grieve over the decay of his physical body, but made light of the cancerous growth on his arm and referred to it as a lingam. As to where he would go after death, Ramana replied, "They say I am dying, but I am not going away. Where could I go? I am here." Whatever the earth may temporarily offer us as human beings, one thing is certain: it is not our permanent home. Regardless of scientific and technological advances, the physical universe as we know it will sometime be unable to sustain life, either reaching a point of maximum entropy or collapsing in upon itself, taking in its course every living creature. Despite the optimistic hopes of some, humankind as we presently understand it has a limited future, perhaps only a few million years. We are, in fact, only visitors to a land that is destined to die. Where, then, is our true home? According to mystics from both East and West, humanity's real abode is neither physical or mental, but wholly spiritual. That is, we are residents of an infinite realm of light and love who have lost sight of our essential nature, mistaking a drop for an ocean, a shack for a kingdom, a stone for a jewel. Sawan Singh, honorifically called the Great Master of Beas, was from his early childhood irresistibly drawn to seek for something that transcended this veil of blood and tears. Born in a Sikh family, Sawan was brought up with the sacred scriptures of his religion, the Guru Granth Sahib, which is a compilation of mystical poetry written by Sikh gurus and other Indian and Persian mystics, which spoke at length about an inner music and light that lead a soul back to its eternal abode, Sachkhand. Deeply religious, Sawan Singh associated with a number of holy men, whom he questioned about the nature of man's spiritual quest. None of these mystics, however, could satisfy his longing. The turning point in Sawan Singh's life came when he met his spiritual guru, Jaimal Singh, in 1894 in the Murray Hills, and took initiation under him in the path of Surat Shabad Yoga. Such was Sawan's readiness that in just over 9 years, he became an acknowledged master within the Satmant and Radhaswami tradition. The secret to the practice of Shabad Yoga is not to be detained or led astray by any sights or sounds on the upward journey, but to follow the celestial current to its terminal apex, where all of consciousness has its transcendental source. In a letter to a disciple, Sawan Singh explained the process of meditation. When you sit still, see that the mind is at rest and does not go out unnecessarily and think about other things. When, by repetition of the names, with attention fixed in the eye focus, you have become unconscious of the body below the eyes, then your attention will catch the sound current. Select the sound resembling the church bell and discard all other sounds. Then slowly your soul will leave the body and collect in the eyes and become strong. Then fix your attention in the biggest star, so much so that you forget everything else except the sound and the star. Then this star will burst, and you will see what is within and beyond. After crossing the star, you will have to cross the sun and the moon, which are inner manifestations of light. After crossing the star, the sun, and the moon, you will see that form which will never leave you, not even for a moment. Finally, the drop merges in the ocean. The wave flows back to the sea. The eye reunites with its source. Sawan Singh established a large spiritual colony on the banks of the Beas River in the Punjab, where Jaimal Singh had resided since the latter part of the 19th century. Having been a highly placed engineer himself in the military service, Sawan built a number of large buildings at the Dera to house the increasing flux of seekers. The most impressive of these structures, the centerpiece of the Dera, is the satsangar built in the 1930s to hold satsangs and later to hold initiations. Sawan Singh gathered a large following of disciples from around the world, and today his teachings, in one form or another, are followed by millions. He died on April 2nd, 1948, at the age of 90. Nearing the end of his life, Sawan Singh summarized his teachings this way. Whatever your religion or community, go within. Nam is the same for all of the universe. It does not consist of the words of any language, whether Punjabi, Sanskrit, Arabic, or Persian. In the region of Nam, there is no language and therefore no book of religion, nor can it be described by any known language. It is an inexpressible story, an unstruck sound. Few books in spiritual literature compared to Paramahansa Yogananda's Autobiography of a Yogi. It is one of those rare works that in a single reading can transform the reader's entire outlook on life. Since its initial printing in 1946, Yogananda's autobiography has continued to enthrall seekers with its fascinating tales of miracles, saints, and astral heavens, even if skeptical readers may take pause. In Yogananda's quest for God, he met several remarkable holy men, including the saint with two bodies, who reputedly had the ability to bilocate physically. Ganda Baba, the renowned perfume saint, a master at manifesting at will a variety of scents or even flowers. Nagendra Nath, the levitating saint, whom both Yogananda and his brother saw floating in the air while engaged in meditations. And Mahendra Nath Gupta, the blissful devotee of the famous Sri Ramakrishna. None of these saints, however, served as Yogananda's spiritual guru. That was reserved for Sri Yukteswar, who Yogananda first met in Benares, but whose ashram was in Puri. Under the tutelage of Sri Yukteswar, Yogananda became a master of Kriya Yoga, which is a psychophysiological method to revitalize the life current within man and to quicken his inner progress. Sri Yukteswar explained to his students that the ancient yogis had discovered a secret of cosmic consciousness that is intimately connected to breath mastery. This is India's unique and deathless contribution to the world treasury of knowledge, he explained. The life force, which is ordinarily absorbed in maintaining hard action, must be freed for higher activities by a method of calming and stilling the ceaseless demands of the breath. By mastering the breath through Kriya Yoga, Yogananda was able to open the third eye center and leave his physical body at will. When a yogi is absorbed in lower samadhi, he appears lifeless, seemingly dead, with no signs of bodily movement. This occurs because the life current, or soul, is drawn from the body to be active on a different and higher plane of existence. In higher samadhi, though, the yogi can commune with a higher reality without this appearance of lifelessness. Yogananda, it appears, was adept in both types of samadhi. Perhaps the most interesting, if controversial, story surrounding Yogananda's life concerns the alleged existence of the avatar Babaji, who supposedly has retained his physical form for centuries. This deathless avatar, as Yogananda refers to him, is responsible for keeping alive the pristine teachings for millennia. According to the autobiography of a yogi, Babaji is on the same spiritual level as Christ, Buddha, and Krishna. There's one catch, however. Babaji can only be seen when he ordains it. That is, Babaji may have a physical form, but it can only be seen when the avatar desires it to be so. Hence, any encounter with Babaji is taken as a highly auspicious occasion. Yogananda himself writes of his meeting with Babaji as the most sacred of my human experiences. After receiving Babaji and Sri Yukteswar's blessings, Yogananda departed for America in 1920 to spread the teachings of Kriya Yoga. He was well received and soon became something of a religious celebrity, attracting substantial crowds to his public lectures. In 1935, Yogananda codified his system as a Self-Realization Fellowship, which was chartered under the laws of California as a non-sectarian and non-profit corporation. Yogananda also founded two remarkable church centers in California, the SRF Lake Shrine in Pacific Palisades and the Encinitas Colony overlooking the Pacific Ocean near San Diego. Both places still exist today, which are wonderful reminders of Yogananda's love for natural beauty. Paramahansa Yogananda died on March 7, 1952, minutes after giving a speech at the Biltmore Hotel in Los Angeles. Apparently, Yogananda knew in advance of his forthcoming death, having given several hints to his disciples. To one devotee he said, "My life work is done." And to another, after the death of Sister Gyan Mata, his most advanced woman initiate, he remarked, "Now that Sister is gone, there is nothing that holds me here." Nevertheless, it came as a surprise to his large following when news spread that their beloved Guru had died. He was 59 years old. The great yogi of America expected to defy death by transcending it. To his many disciples, Paramahansa Yogananda awoke in a new world, one which his Guru had predicted would find them together. "You and I shall smile together. Finally, we shall merge as one in the cosmic beloved. Our smiles shall be his smile." What is it that drives us towards aggression? Is it biologically pre-programmed? Does environment via our social structures breed it? Acharya Sushil Kumar, the renowned Jain monk, suggests that the ancient Upanishads provide us with an insightful answer. Wherever there is an other, fear arises. It is the emergence of the separate self, the I-ness, the egoic structure, which is at the heart of man's cruelty. With the advent of self-awareness, there also comes the presumption of what is not self. And all of that, the environment, the world, them, generates fear. This fear drives human beings to protect the self from all that threatens its separate existence. But such a strategy, if not balanced with the self-interest of others, can only end in failure and a lifelong narcissism, a denial of the universe and what it offers. Paradoxically, the more one tries to retain the self, the more one eventually loses it in the fight against the not-self or the world. A tragic double bind indeed. What is the solution? There is only one, Sushil Kumar postulates. Give up the false idea of an independent self and begin to see the creation as one indivisible whole. Unless the individual surrenders its infantile posture towards life, one which is reflected in the obsessive fear of death, then the end of wars, atomic or conventional, will never be secured. As Sushil Kumar elaborated, it is easy to wage battle with others who have not seen the light or true path, but it is very difficult to conduct the real war, which must take place within ourselves. Sushil Kumar is a follower of Jainism, which traces back to at least 600 BCE, and its central message is based upon the principle of ahimsa, non-injury, and respect toward all living things. It is this ideal which has served as the guiding light to Sushil Kumar's spiritual practice and political ideology. To show loving kindness in all directions without recoil to every creature, great or small, ugly or beautiful, this, Sushil Kumar stressed, was the ultimate message of Jainism. However, he emphasized that ahimsa was not the property of any particular faith, but is the spiritual inheritance of all men and women. Throughout history, there have been various degrees of nonviolence which have been practiced, ranging from simple non-injury to human beings alone, to the extreme of not hurting insects or vegetation whenever possible. Jainism's uniqueness has been in its rigorous adherence to the doctrine of ahimsa in all forms. Followers of Jainism are strict vegetarians, abstaining from meat, fish, and eggs. They also do not drink alcohol or take mind-altering drugs. Though there is no God as such in Jainism, devotees do hold that the true reality of the universe is spiritual in nature. It is the goal of all devout Jains to extricate their souls from the realm of matter in order to achieve absolute liberation or moksha. To achieve this enlightened state, the disciple must work very hard on himself, circumventing the tendency of the mind to focus outward on the world and its pleasures. Instead of allowing more karmas to accumulate, which only keeps the soul imprisoned, the devotee must give up his evil tendencies and transcend the realm of Maya or illusion. Because of this single-minded focus to lessening karma and violence, Jainism advocates a path of extreme asceticism. Since the obligations are so severe, Jainism has two levels of adherence, the holy man or monk and the layman. Both divisions, though, have strict injunctions in common. As David Bradley explains, all Jains must take 5 vows. 1. Not to harm any living creature. 2. To be absolutely truthful. 3. Not to steal. 4. To be chaste in thought and deed. And 5. To practice non-attachment to the world by strict limitation of possessions. For the holy man, the last 2 require celibacy and poverty. Perhaps the main Jain contribution to Indian life is the teaching of ahimsa, a principle followed later by many Hindus and made world famous when advocated by Gandhi. Jains follow it to the extreme. Thus a monk will sweep a path or a chair with a soft brush before treading or sitting upon it to avoid even the tiniest insect. In addition to these 5 vows, the monk has thousands of detailed rules to follow, mostly extensions of the ideal behavior enjoined by the vows. The 3 jewels of right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct are stressed for all. The layman must avoid agriculture since plowing, for example, kills worms, hence most Jains engage in merchandising and banking. Acharya Sushil Kumar practiced Arum Yoga, an ancient meditational practice focused on withdrawing one's consciousness from the body and merging with the transcendental light and sound. He believed that the key to peace starts with how well we have understood our own true nature and how all of life was interconnected on a deeper level, regardless of what differences we may perceive outwardly. On April 22, 1994, in New Delhi, India, at his ashram, which was founded to spread the teachings and practice of ahimsa, Acharya Sushil Kumar felt crippled with internal pains and sensed that he was going to die. He then put himself into full lotus posture, and he went into deep meditation and died while in samadhi. Sushil Kumar was a self-effacing, gentle mystic who always spoke of the deepest truths in gatherings where others focused on mundane solutions to the human predicament. He knew it was spiritual knowledge that people needed most, and he gave it consistently, every time, everywhere. In Delhi, India, in the latter part of the 1980s, after serving as a spiritual master for nearly 4 decades, Charan Singh, who then had the largest following of any guru in the history of Radhaswami, was asked a personal question by one of his Western disciples in an afternoon meeting. "What was the happiest moment of your life?" To which Charan, appearing somewhat surprised by the query, replied, "I cannot remember the happiest moment of my life. I can only remember the saddest day of my life, and that was when I was appointed to this position." Charan Singh never expected to be chosen as a spiritual master. In October of 1951, Jagat Singh, who was then the leader of Radhaswami Satsang Beas and on his deathbed, sent an urgent telegram to Charan to come immediately to the Dera. However, Charan arrived with his father only after Jagat Singh had died. Charan was completely shocked and mortified to learn that Jagat had appointed him to be his successor in his last will and testament. Charan Singh had no inkling that such a fate awaited him. Initially, Charan was so overcome with sadness at the prospect of being the Satguru at the Dera that he contemplated running away, but he was prevented from doing so by the ardent pleas of his family and the thousands of satsangis that wanted him to accept the Gadi. Charan himself wrote on October 24, 1951, after just hearing the news of being named Jagat Singh's successor, "As I am feeling now, facing people with folded hands, eyes full with tears and sorrow, when I compare my shortcomings with their faith, devotion, and respect, my mind ceases to think, and I am living as if there is no other alternative." Later, Charan Singh would occasionally refer to this as his execution day. On his Dastur day, which is where the Guru is formally installed in front of the entire Sangat, Charan explained further why he felt so troubled in accepting such an exalted status and role. "My love for Huzur Maharaji, the commands of Sardar Bahadur Maharaji, and the affection of the Sangat compel me to serve the Sangat and the Dera. But when I look at myself and my shortcomings, I feel diffident and find myself unable to decide whether I'm really fit for these onerous duties. I wish to tell the Sangat quite frankly that I do not make any claims whatsoever to spiritual attainments. I do not find in myself even those excellences that a good satsangi should possess. I do not consider myself worthy of putting on the turban of such great saints. But compelled by the Sangat's love and faith in Huzur Maharaji, I have submitted myself to the Sangat, and the Sangat can do as they see fit." The vast gathering were deeply moved by Charan's words, given as they were so freely and openly from his heart. Over the next 4 decades, Charan Singh drew a huge gathering all over India and from different countries around the world, eventually initiating over 1,200,000 people into the practice of Surat Shabad Yoga. Although Charan consistently and unequivocally disavowed himself from any spiritual attainments, it became obvious to all those who saw him that Charan was on a most difficult path, one which was different than most. Charan was following the way of absolute submission to the commands of his own guru and grandfather, Sawan Singh, even though Charan himself had no desire whatsoever to be a guru at all. As Charan stated on different occasions, "If it were up to me, I wouldn't stay at this stage for a second." But such was his devotion that Charan was fully committed to obeying the directives of his predecessors. As Charan reflected, "In spite of me, I am still breathing in his service." During his tenure, Charan expanded the Dera colony, creating a large and self-sustaining township. He also made certain that the Dera developed and enlarged its langar, which could feed hundreds of thousands of visitors for free on a single day. Charan also established a massive medical eye camp each year where thousands of patients were freely treated for cataracts and other ailments. In addition, he created a large general hospital which treated anyone regardless of cost. When he was complimented for providing such facilities, Charan commented that he felt fortunate that he could be of such service and that he was blessed to be able to serve in such a way. Despite being so successful in his ministry, Charan Singh never regarded himself as a master per se, but only someone who was trying his best to follow the instructions left to him by both Jagat Singh and Sawan Singh. In this regard, he remarked that he always shook in his boots when he woke up each morning, knowing fully well the tremendous responsibility that was before him. He never felt that he deserved the honorifics that were bestowed on him from thousands who held him in the very highest regard. As Charan himself emphasized from the beginning of his appointment at a satsang in November of 1951, "Let me serve the Sangat as their younger brother. I earnestly request every satsangi not to address me as Maharaji, as such titles suit only royal personalities, like my illustrious predecessors. I feel that I'm like a stone idol in a temple. According to their notions of love, some bathe it in cold water, some with hot water, and some deck it in fine clothes, but is still an idol all the same." Charan's path was one of complete surrender, as he frankly admitted in a letter in early November of 1951 to a close friend. "I had no alternative left but to accept this heavy responsibility. You can well imagine how hard it will be to carry it out. I have entirely submitted to him, his will, and will face whatever he has in store for me. Very little is known in the West about the lineage of Radhaswami Gurus at Taran, a small Sikh city about 20 miles outside Amritsar. In the Punjab, however, the satsang is well known, and its following numbers in the thousands. I had hoped for several years to meet the then current head of the sect, Pratap Singh. But it was not until August of 1978 that I boarded the bus for Taran. The name literally means a raft which carries one over a large body of water, a town most famous for its large golden Sikh Gurdwara. Once I arrived there, I had to ask the local rickshaw wallahs for directions to the ashram. Pictures of a saintly-looking Sikh on display in many of the shops made me feel hopeful. Luckily, I found an old rickshaw driver who knew his way to the spiritual center. At the front of the compound, I met the ashram's gatekeeper, whose knowledge of English was exceeded only by my 5 words of Hindi. We greeted each other with a clear and drawn-out Radha Swami. I was ushered into an open, rather empty-looking courtyard. A few people who I took to be sadhus were lying in some shade. The heat was about 100 degrees and the humidity felt about 90%. One of the first things I noticed in the ashram was a series of pictures of the different saints of Taran. Most noticeable, in the center of the back wall, was a picture of the founder, Baba Faqir Chand. He had a powerful lion-like face. There were also photographs of Sant Deva Singh, the second master in the lineage, and of the late Jagat Singh of Beas. It was around noontime when I saw Pratap Singh. I liked him immediately. He has a large nose and a robust physique. While the saint of Taran and I conversed, the secretary of the Dera acted as a translator. We discussed the history of the group. The current leader in 1978 was Pratap Singh, and he was installed by Maharaj Charan Singh after Deva Singh's death in the early 1960s. The Taran and Beas satsangs enjoy a friendly and unique association. The present leaders of the two centers are good friends, often seen together giving spiritual discourses. Pratap Singh discussed with me the practice of Shabad Yoga and how one might succeed in listening to the inner sound. He stressed the need to do as much Simran as possible, that is, the repetition of a holy name or names at the third eye center. His argument was that unless one concentrated one's attention during the day, away from the exterior world, then when one sat for meditation, the world with all its attractions would again arise within the mind. The several hours one devotes to meditation, Pratap Singh argued, were not enough precisely because those hours were spent reminiscing about the day's events and not necessarily focusing on the task of going within. I was reminded during Pratap Singh's conversation of Jagat Singh's admonition to do Simran as if one were collecting or counting precious jewels. Each repetition of a word should be done with the mind fully attentive, much like a jeweler who inspects each diamond with meticulous care. Pratap Singh also displayed during this time a wonderful sense of curiosity. He seemed fascinated by my wristwatch and wanted to know how much it cost me in America. When I told him the price, I think it was around $20, he seemed duly impressed and thought I got a good deal. Indeed, I felt tempted to offer it to him, but knowing that gurus like Pratap Singh did not accept such gifts, I thought it might be rude, so I held back. I was a bit shocked when Pratap Singh then informed me of his fondness for wrestling. The famed saint of Taran, a wrestler? I could tell by the twinkle in his eye that he loved the sport. In fact, he described his recent contest with his friend, the late Dr. Randolph Stone, who was the founder of polarity therapy, at the house of Charan Singh. I don't know who won the contest, but if I were a betting man, I would place my money on the saint of Taran. To be sure, Pratap Singh is a kind and wise guru, but he also is quite hefty and quite fit. I don't think Dr. Stone had a chance. Shaking Pratap Singh's hand for the last time, feeling his grip grow tighter, I was very tempted to challenge the guru to an arm wrestle. But alas, I was too shy. Of course, Pratap Singh would have none of that, so he stood up and gave me a huge bear hug. Till this day, I can still vividly recall how tightly he squeezed me. I can also never forget the warmth and friendliness of this saint of Taran. I still vividly recall the first time I met Yogini Mataji, when she was still a young woman at the age of 38. It was in July of 1978 on a balmy night, just a day or so after Guru Purnima Day, when I had first met Baba Faqir Chand. I was lying down on a cot in Swami Yogeshwar Ananda Saraswasti's room, listening to several different swamis and yogis talk about their inner mystical journey. They had gathered in Hoshiarpur, in the foothills of the Himalayas, to pay their respects to Fakir Chand, but each of them were practitioners from different lineages. But the jewel in this eclectic gathering was Yogini Mataji, even though at the time I was unaware of her exalted status. She beamed with joy, and her smile was absolutely infectious. I never forgot her bright face. 3 years later, when I had come back to Manav Mandir, I had heard several high-level satsangis speak of a woman mystic who Fakir had appointed as a guru and as one of his spiritual successors. I was utterly surprised with joy when I went to go see this yogini, only to find out it was the same radiant woman I had met 3 years prior. We had an instant connection. We talked for many hours that night about Shabad Yoga and the ability to consciously induce a near-death experience and witness states of consciousness far beyond the rational mind. Yogini Mataji explained how listening to subtler and subtler inner sounds led to an awakening where a brilliant light could be seen and would draw one's awareness deeply within. She mentioned that with sufficient practice anyone could do such at will. I saw her briefly the next morning as I was scheduled to depart to Charan Singh's center at Beas. It has been nearly 34 years since I last saw Yogini Mataji. I had heard rumor that she had given up her guru status and had become a relative recluse. However, due to the diligence of Bharat Bhushan, whose father was also a spiritual teacher appointed by Fakir Chand, he located Tripta Devi at her late father's home. Later, Wolfgang, a researcher in Indian studies, was able to interview her and film her for the first time. Interestingly, she informed both gentlemen that she does not believe in being a guru and refuses to initiate anyone or gather a following, though she clearly does practice her own meditations and devotions. Yogini Mataji wishes to remain as she is, hidden. The following footage, filmed on an otherwise nondescript day, with all the street sounds and commotion in the background, so typical of an Indian town, Therefore it may be the only record we have of Tripta Devi softly singing a Shabad, drenched in her own unique devotional longing.
नी गुरां दी सूरत रब नी भुल जाई ना जोग नी मुखड़ा गुरां दा काबा जानी अपने गुरां दी रमज पछाणी मुखड़ा गुरां दा काबा जानी अपने गुरां दी रमज पछाणी नी उते औगन देगा कढनी भुल जाई ना जोग
In 1919, I was posted in Iraq. The Aboriginal inhabitants, known as Badus, revolted, which led to a fierce battle. I was inspector in the Department of Telegraphy and the Railways with my headquarters at Divinia. The rebels made a heavy attack on the Ahmadiyya railway station, killing the entire staff and setting the building on fire. Military forces from my post were rushed to Ahmadiyya. I was also ordered to take charge of the Ahmadiyya railway station as station master. Our soldiers laid down wires and trenches and occupied their positions. Fierce fighting continued and there was a heavy loss of life on both sides. At Ahmadiyya we were left with a group of 35 soldiers and one Subedar major. The rest of the army was sent to Divinia to retaliate any attack there. With the fall of the night, the rebels attacked us. Our soldiers, though less in number, fought back. One of our men was wounded while casualties on the opposition were very heavy. As the firing ceased for some time, the Subedar major came to me and asked that I convey to our headquarters at Divinia that we were short of ammunition, and if we had to face another such attack, our supplies would not last for more than an hour. If the ammunition supply failed to reach us before dawn, none of us would be alive. I wired the message to the headquarters accordingly. The situation was tense and everybody was feeling as if the end had come. I too was shaken with the fear of death. In this very moment of fear, the holy form of Hazur Datta Dayalji appeared before me and said, "Fakir, worry not. The enemy has not come to attack but to take away their dead. Let them do that. Don't waste your ammunition." I sent for the Subedar major and told him about the appearance of my guru and his directions concerning the enemy. The Subedar major followed the directions of my guru. The rebel Jawans came and carried away their dead without attacking our positions. By 6 o'clock in the morning, our airplanes came and they dropped the necessary supplies. Our fears vanished. We gained courage. We were safe. After about 3 months, the fighting came to an end, and the Jawans retired to their barracks. I returned to Baghdad, where there were many satsangis. When they learned of my arrival, they all came together to see me. They made me sit on a raised platform, offered flowers, and worshipped me. It was all very unexpected and a surprising scene for me. I asked them, "Our Guru Maharaj is at Lahore. I am not your Guru. Why do you worship me?" They replied in unison, "On the battlefield we were in danger. Death lurked over our heads. You appeared before us in those moments of danger and gave us direction for our safety. We followed your instructions and thus were saved." I was wonderstruck by this surprising explanation of theirs. I had no knowledge of their trouble. I, myself, being in danger during those days of combat, had not even remembered them. This incident caused me to question within myself, who appeared to them? Was it Fakir Chand? My faith was strengthened and I concluded, whosoever remembers God in whatever form, in that very form he helped his devotee. So what I have understood about Nam is that it is the true knowledge of the feelings, visions, and images that are seen within. This knowledge is that all the creations of the waking, dreaming, and deep sleep modes of consciousness are nothing but samskaras, impressions which are in truth unreal. They are produced by the mind. What to speak about others? Even I am not aware of my own self in dreams. Who knows what may happen to me at the time of death? I may enter the state of unconsciousness, enter the state of dreams, and see railway trains. How can I make a claim about my attainment of the ultimate? The truth is that I know nothing.